Okay, right. Well, thank you very much for joining us on today's money webinar, Salary Finance and Neighbour. How to break the money taboo, easy ways to get ahead financially. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to be really fast paced today. This is a 30-minute session. We are repeating this session again tomorrow at 12 p.m. So if you miss it or you leave or you want to tell colleagues about it, we'll be doing the session again and there will be a recording. Thank you very much again for joining us on today's session. I've got quite a lot of people on this session, so I'll just crack on anyway and people can join as they feel fit. My name is Jason Butler and I'm the Head of Financial Education at Salary Finance, which also includes the Neighbour group of companies. And if you're not aware, that Salary Finance and Neighbour are an employee benefit which is basically provided to you by your employer. It'll either be a Salary Finance branded benefit or Neighbour benefit, but they're all part of the same company. And our mission is to get people out of debt, stay out of debt, into savings, building resilience so that they're financially healthier and happier. And you can find out more about Salary Finance at the website address there if you aren't already aware of it, or ask or speak to your employer about the benefit portal so you can find out more. Now, I should just point out right at the get-go that this presentation is generic in nature and it is not to be taken as personal advice. Even the questions that we answer at the end, they will be very generic in nature. If you need personal advice, then please consult either a regulated financial advisor, or you can get free personal money help from either the Money and Pension Service or your local Citizens Advice Bureau. If you or anyone you know is struggling with problem debt or is really feeling in a really distressed situation, then you can get personal help from either Step Change or the National Debtline charities. They are fantastic organisations that will help people in difficult situations. Now, I just want to introduce a very good friend of mine who I've worked with many times and one of the UK's leading money coaches, my good friend Fanny Snaith. And Fanny, hello.
Hello, good afternoon, and it's lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. No, thank you very much. Now, Fanny, just before we get into the main body of the presentation, just explain to people what a money coach does.
Sure. A money coach, I mean, I work with people and couples who struggle to look after their money because they feel awkward about it or uncomfortable about it. It's stressful. And I help them to be more confident with money, to be competent with money, get complete clarity around their situation so that they can start managing their money effectively and get to the place where they want to, get to goals that they've always dreamed of. So it's more about the bridge between sort of book work and how we feel in our heads about it, I guess.
Yeah, and I know obviously you work with all different people, and it's really powerful when you hear some of the video testimonials of people who were perhaps not getting ahead with money or feeling they can never get ahead, and a coach just to help unblock those blockages or sometimes mental blockages, and helping people help themselves, which is what it's all about. Yeah. Good. Okay, we're going to touch on three specific areas today. We're going to talk about your financial personality and the role it plays. We're going to talk about how you can become more confident and capable with money, and we are going to map out, we're going to share with you two models that you potentially could use. They're not in competition, they're just different models. One is one that I created and one is the one that Fanny uses, that might help you become a more mindful spender, because it's never really about what you earn, it's generally always about what you spend your money on. Now, before we get into that body of the questioning, I want to just ask you a poll. I want to get a sense of how much you stress and worry about money. Now, this is not about how much you earn or how much money you've built. This is about how the emotions of money, how you feel right now about money. So we've got a choice of questions there. I'm just going to launch the poll. Just going to launch that for you now. So I want you to vote away. Launch. So are you you're not worried at all? You're always chilled? A little bit, you occasionally have mishaps with your money. A fair bit, it's always in the back of your mind? Or a lot, I'm always stressed and worried about money? And it's okay. You can, you can have all different feelings at different stages of the year, from one week to the next, and that's fine. We just want to get a litmus test. Okay, I'm just going to close that poll up. Okay, and share that with you. Now, that's very interesting. We've got 12 who are totally chilled. We've got 9 who are extremely stressed and worried, but the bulk of you are either a little bit and have occasional mishaps, or a fair bit. It's always in the back of your mind. So look, here's the thing. You're not alone, whatever your score was. If you are one of those 12 people who's not worried at all and you're chilled about money, and I'm assuming you're in a good place, please share what you're doing with your colleagues, your relatives, your friends, because no point in you keeping it all to yourself. If you've found a way that works for you, then it's all about breaking this taboo. Let's share the love. And equally, if you're feeling really stressed, share it with someone who you feel safe to do so. And it's probably the case that it's probably not as bad as you think it is, and it could well be that they're feeling the same, or that they've experienced it in the past. So don't suffer in silence. So let's just hide that. Okay, now 4 things that you should do to improve your financial well-being and avoid stresses and worries. 1, get and stay organized. That means knowing where your data, your documents, your dates are, dealing with things as they come in, feeling like you're on the front foot, clearing out that drawer in the kitchen with all the bits of paper. It's being able to manage and minimize your involvement with debt. We all have to use debt at some stage in our life, but the idea is to minimize the use and get rid of it as quickly as you can. And then being able to deal with a crisis, as we've seen with the coronavirus situation. Stuff happens, right? And we've seen some people have been in a vulnerable position going into the coronavirus scenario, and all it's done is it's accentuated their vulnerability. Other people, things happen in their life. Stuff comes from left beam, right beam. Normally, it comes in 3s dramas, whether it's your car's broken down or your boiler's blown up or you've had a relationship breakdown. Stuff happens. And then being in that position to be able to build up wealth so that you have choices in later life, whatever that means to you, so that you don't have to work till you drop. So they're the things that you should do, but we don't always do what we should do with our money, right? And there's a very simple reason for that. And that simple reason is because we're human. Our brains have evolved at a much slower rate than the society around us. We were built for Neanderthalic world, where essentially we worried about food and shelter and reproducing, and that was it. And the average person lived to about 30. Well, we've become a lot more sophisticated in terms of the world we live in now. And essentially, our brain and our financial decisions that relate to it are driven by emotional or instinctive impulses, response, and behaviors. And that's why I wanted Fanny on the situation with us, because she does coach people through those behavior things. And just before I hand over to Fanny to explain to you about the money mindsets, the money personalities, as it were, I want to explain to you how this is formed. We all have the kind of financial identity, and that's formed from our values. That comes from our family, our culture, our social network, the country we live in, the area we live in. We have our innate money personality, which is pretty much driven by our genetics, most of it. You're either impulsive or you're very logical, you're very relaxed, you're very gregarious, you're very analytical, whatever it is. You see, then we have money scripts. So these are the stories that we learn as we grow up. Money doesn't grow on trees. I'm no good with money. What do you think? I'm made of money. These kind of stories. Now, they can help us, and sometimes they can hinder us. Often they do hinder us, but they're just stories. And then there's life experiences. If you went through the Depression in the 1930s, in the last century, you would have a very different mindset than if you went through the 1950s or 60s. And indeed, if you went through the property crash of the early 90s, like I did, you have a different view about property than people who've only ever seen their property go up in value. So we're very much a product of our experiences, and that gives you your financial identity. So with that in mind, I'm now going to hand over to Fanny to explain to you the 8 money types, okay? This will help you become more aware of your behaviors, and more aware means that you can then start to improve and do things about it. Over to you, Fanny.
Okay, real whistle-stop tour through these. So we've got 8 characters here, clearly fictional characters, and each one of them has a very different trait and behavior around money. All of them are within us. It just depends which one is taking center stage at any one given time. So I'll quickly run through them and see which you recognize, both for yourself, but also for your mum or dad or friends or colleagues. So first of all, we've got the innocent. The innocent is going to be the typical person that will want to put their head in the sand when it comes to money. They don't really want anything to do with it. They're very trusting, they're happy-go-lucky externally, but they're fearful and anxious on the inside. Indecisive, seeking security, probably financially dependent on another. The victim. The victim quite often starts off as the innocent, but things have gone wrong, so they're prone to blaming others. They're highly emotional, or they're melancholy or angry about it. They can get angry about things that go wrong. Very often living in the past, living in old stories that they just keep repeating over and over again. Looking for rescue, feeling that they're powerless, that there's nothing that they can do, and quite often resentful. Luck always happens to other people, not me. Then we got the warrior. The warrior is the money type of action, and the warrior is going to be powerful. They're going to be looking after their finances, probably goal orientated, financially successful, confident, will like helping others, and will generally be wise. We like a bit of warrior going on. And then we've got the martyr, who's the money type of service, long suffering, really good at giving, not very good at receiving. Always disappointed in what other people do. If they're not going to do it, I'm going to have to do it myself. Quite honestly, it's exhausting being a martyr. You'll know if you have the martyr money type in the front of your life at the moment. You'll know, you'll feel it, I'm telling you. Then we have the fool. Oh, we love the fool, but they're very restless and they're very undisciplined when it comes to money. They're financially irresponsible, over generous, happy-go-lucky, lives for today, enjoys all the new fresh deals that are coming up and invest in this, and then it all goes wrong. So the fool really needs to balance out their money a little bit. Then we've got the creator artist, who is the one that you'll probably hear them saying, money's not really important to me. I'm not really very materialistic about that. I don't need a lot of money. But look, money is important. It costs money to keep a roof over our heads and clothes on our backs and the heating on. We don't have to be completely materialistic, but the creator artist is wanting to remain authentic and is thinking that having a lot of money is maybe depriving other people of money. So that's them. It's good to have a bit of creator artist, but not too much. Then we've got the tyrant, who is just all about making money. Nothing is more important than money. Nothing is more important than status. They want status. They want to be respected. They want people to think, oh, I want to be like them. But really, they're fearful and they're worried about not having any friends, not having anybody who respect them, and more importantly, losing all their money. And then we have the one that we all want to be, which is the magician. And the magician is the magician because he's experienced all of the others at the forefront of his financial life at one point or other. And he's learned that the innocent finds all the answers from within. He's learned that the victim, if they can get rid of those old stories, they can move forward. He's always been good mates with the warrior. He's learned that he needs to fill up his own cup before other people's of the martyr. The fool, take risks, but think about them first, right? And the creator artist is lovely, that creative spiritual part, but we are allowed to have a little bit of material goods around us, and certainly the things that keep us well. And as far as the tyrant is concerned, money's never going to make you happy with that kind of train of thought. So those are the money types. I wonder which ones you recognize. I wonder which ones you recognize in your parents or your carers when you were growing up. And then think about the traits of the archetypes that we don't really want, and think about how you can bring forward the positive traits of the three money types that are going to help you: the creator artist, the warrior, and the magician.
Yeah, really good there. Fantastic thing. And if, as I say, these archetypes were created by the Money Institute in America, I don't think the culture really affects them at all, because when I did this, just in full disclosure, I had it was a mixture of the fool, the tyrant, and the magician. And so that's interesting, because in my early life, I was very much a fool, and I had to build coping strategies to avoid me from becoming kind of that, as you say, destructive behavior. So look, here's an idea. I just want to get a sense from you all as to whether you can see yourself there as a money type, kind of maybe a mixture of two or three, or yes, a really strong one. So I'm just going to launch the poll there, and I just would be interested to see where you see yourself in that there. So we're just going to launch that now. Did you see yourself very strongly there in Fanny's description of the money types?
And interestingly, you might receive a bill that you didn't expect to receive, and that might bring out one of the other money types that you don't normally recognize. So remember that these are all interchangeable. They're not who you are, they're where you are.
Yeah. Okay, let's close that and share it. So basically 80% of you can see sort of a mixture. 4 can't see anything there. 17% see a very dominant type, and that's fine. And that does change, right? It's just interesting. Just a quick one. We got some questions already in the question box. Please put your questions in there. We will answer them once we get through the body of the presentation shortly. Please put your questions there, and we'll try and answer as many as we can. So let me just hide that. And let's just move on. Okay, now you can find out your own money type quiz by going to Fanny's website, and she's got a free money type quiz there. So people can take that, can't they, Fanny, and find out their sort of basic type. So that's the website there if you want to find that out. And as I say, that's well worth doing. I was very surprised when I did mine and found out. Well, I wasn't surprised, but I was surprised I had as much magician in me as I did. But there we go. Okay, just a couple of things. Reframing how you think about money. So so that you feel a bit more confident and capable. And one of the things that you can do with money is to, again, it's a massive subject, but set really low expectations. I don't mean commit to a life of poverty or frugality or to not have anything nice, but I mean set low expectations of what you think you can achieve. And the beauty about setting low expectations is once you start achieving them, even if it's something small like sorting through, I don't know, one stage in your budgeting or working out what you've got going out, just the direct debits or whatever it is, just take one really small step. And then basically you give yourself small milestones to move on from there. And then as you start moving through milestones, whatever those tasks are, then celebrate in a non-spending way so that you get a sense of progress. It's much better to sort of under egg what you're going to do in the short term so you can achieve much more in the long run. Anything else there, Fanny, you want to mention before we move on to the spending?
I would say just buy more consciously. Don't fritter money on wasteful, silly little things. Save up for something that you really do want and have less things around you, but better quality items.
Absolutely. Good. Now, the absolute foundation of good financial well-being, it doesn't matter how much you earn, what matters is how much and where you spend your money. And there are two frameworks we're going to share with you. We're going to share with you Fanny's money map system, which works for many of her clients, and I'm going to share with you my smart spending. They're not good or bad, or one's better than the other. They're just different frameworks, and you might connect with one more than the other, or you might find your own framework. So we're just going to share these with you. These are things that have worked for us personally and for people we've worked with over the years. So over to you, Fanny, on the money map system.
Okay, so I divide my money into 3 pots, 1, 2, 3. What I'm basically doing is I'm giving every single pound of my income a purpose so that I end up with zeros. And I would like that to include any debts that I have and any savings that I have. So it includes everything. Pot number 1 is everyday spending, things like food, petrol, parking, maybe bus fares, things that you know you're going to be spending every month, but you're not absolutely sure how much it's going to be, but you need that cash to be available to you. So it's a bit like having your purse or your wallet. Number 2, irregular spending. That is things like Christmas, holidays, weekends away, theatre trips, birthday gifts, etc. The last thing we want to do is to get to 2 weeks before mum's 50th birthday and suddenly realise you've got a big expense. Like every other business, what we want to try and do is to smooth our cash flow. So if we think about Christmas in January and set a budget for it and put money aside every month, come the 1st of December, it's covered and you can breathe and you can smile. Pot number 3, automated spending. Automate as many bills as you possibly can. So things like the gas, the electricity, the mortgage, the rent, the water, all of that, put them in the same account and you'll know that number. Don't forget as well subscriptions. So, you know, your Netflix or your Spotify, etc. Put them all in there so you know exactly when payments are coming out and how much they're going to be. If you put your money into these 3 pots, clearly there's a little bit more percentage-wise about how much you allocate to each bit, but if you divide it these 3 ways, you're really onto a winner of knowing where you are and having complete clarity around your finances.
Absolutely. So really, again, a framework that you may be able to use. Now, this framework is the one that I developed that got me out of £30,000 worth of consumer debt in my 20s to becoming financially independent in my late 40s. Okay. And basically the way it works is this, is that you are thinking of your spending in terms of your identity on the right-hand side there. There is the future you, there is the essential you, and there is the fun you. And if you think of it like that, what you're really doing is every time you spend, you are putting a vote for one of those identities. Habits, which is the daily money habits you develop, and the decisions and behaviors you actually do, are always linked to your image of who you are and your identity of who you think you are. So if it's a sabotaging, if you don't think very positively, or if you think very positively, it will influence your behaviors. So this is a way of thinking about your future you, essential you, and fun you. Now, fun you is the here and now. It's all the things that make life interesting and easy over the next year. Essential you is putting, you know, food in the refrigerator and keeping a roof over your head and getting to work. And the future you is all about getting out of debt, building savings, and building wealth so you have options. You can make work optional. So the way that you do it on the left-hand side, you have 4 accounts. You have your current account where the money comes in. Okay. If you use a salary finance or neighbor product, then clearly money will be taken directly out of your salary before you get it. But otherwise, there'll be standing orders, won't there? Direct debits. And essentially, but what you're doing also is you're siphoning off to the emergency fund your emergency pot of money, right? This is a money that you only touch for emergencies. And that's somewhere between 3 to 6 months essential you living costs. So if you can keep your essential you living costs down, your emergency fund can be lower. If you've got a high octane lifestyle, then it's going to mean you're going to have a bigger emergency fund. And this is where we find people get into a problem because they don't believe they need an emergency fund. If you've got very stable work and a very stable income, a very stable career in your household, not just you, but also your partner if you have one, then you can have a much lower level of amount. But if you've got a much more unstable outlook, or your partner's got an unstable income or career or whatever it is, or it might drop in the future, you might need to have a much bigger one. I hold 12 months emergency fund essentials living costs, but that's my preference, right? It's not because I've got unstable work, it's because that helps me sleep at night. But start where you are. You start with 1,000 there and you can build up. The spending account at the bottom is all about you put aside for that month. If you want to spend 300 quid on fun, the sneakers that you don't, the trainers that you don't need, the coffee's out, whatever. I know that we've all had a lot less opportunity to spend money on fun, but you can still put money aside, and just if you don't use it, you build it up. But the beauty is you're spending down to zero what you've allocated. And then you've got the smoothing account there. Now that's the smoothing account for putting all money on a monthly basis that you're going to spend every year, either on essential you things, like for instance, the car service or the boiler service, or things that you know are going to happen, but they're not monthly, but you're going to need to spend them each year, or the fun things like the holiday or buying new clothes or whatever it is you buy, but it's not happening every month, okay? That will help you. It's a framework that worked for me and it can work for you. Now, these downloads, by the way, you can look on the right-hand side, on the downloads on the right-hand side, you can download these things, the smart spending system certainly, and you can download the smart spending system if that will help you. So this is an old school one-page A4 that you can use to write all your money down, but you've got to work out where it's going before you can then decide where you want it to go, and you will be surprised. We're not saying you've got to forget the word budget. We don't like the word budget, do we, Fanny?
No, we don't.
No.
Very
so
restrictive.
Yeah, we're talking here about deciding where to spend your money in advance. Now, we know that some people are in a difficult situation. Sometimes you might need to put your income up. Sometimes you might need to cut things out. Sometimes it might be a mixture of the two. Sometimes it might be your partner needs to sort of change their job or their career because they're not producing enough. We know it's not easy, but this can be learned. And the more mindful you are, the better it's going to be. Okay, now, a couple of resources for you. Salary finance, if your employer makes provide salary finance solutions, then you can find out much more about how to manage your money better through box set videos, guides, tools. If you visit the Salary Finance website and visit the Learn, it may be that your employer makes available this through your own portal, but because we deal with so many employers, every employer is different. If you're a neighbor, if your employer is providing neighbor products and services, then you can find all the financial well-being stuff via this website here, which probably will be in your benefits platform. So that depends. If you're a neighbor provider, then you can find out more financial education, and you can sign up to the newsletter as well to get tips, tools and insights to help you. Okay, so a quick reminder, know your money type. That will be the first thing. Awareness will help you get ahead and be better. Have a spending plan, whether you use Fanny's Frame Money Map or use my smart spending system, or you use something else. You must be mindful about it, okay? And then take really small steps. Do a few things well and move forward and celebrate success, but really commit to doing constant improvement. Remember, you won't do this overnight. This will take time. Okay, so anything you want to add before we finish there? Go to questions, Fanny?
I was just going to say, building a nice financial foundation, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Okay, so if you've got questions, put them in the question box or answer them. Absolutely very happy to do that. We can't websites. We haven't mentioned websites on here other than the Money Advice Service, Step Change, and National Deadline, and Citizens Advice. Just do a web search. You'll be able to find them. And we will obviously we'll make sure that they are actually available on the Salary Finance and the Neighbour websites. So feel free to ask us questions. Now we've got a couple of questions here. We've got one about investing long term. What approach would you have if you are later on in your life? Do you want to mention? Do you want to just answer that one, Fanny?
I think if you're starting to invest later on in your life, one, it depends what later on in your life means. Secondly, I think if we're going to be investing, you want to be putting yourself forward to be locking your money away for a minimum of 5 years, really. So I'd be very careful as to what you wanted to invest in. I would take professional advice from a financial advisor before willy-nilly starting to throw money into the stock market or into funds. You know, I would take some professional advice, to be honest.
And I think at the end of the day, what this really says is it's about your circumstances.
Yeah.
It's about your resources. How long are you going to work for? It's also about your preferences, and more importantly, it's about your priorities. What we do know is there's a good chance if you're in your, say, late 40s, early 50s, you are probably got a very high chance of living to 90 or longer. Okay, so we've got much longer periods. So actually, we don't invest and then suddenly stop and it all goes into cash when we get to 60 or 62 or start living off it. That's old school thinking. What we probably do is we might start reducing our working a bit, so we're not actually needing so much money straight away, but we're not having to work so much longer. So the idea of retirement and the idea of moving from savings into work is changing all the time. So I would again recommend that you do some reading on the subject, speak to a financial advisor. Your employer may make this available, and your employer can also make available normally give you access to a panel of advisors. If they don't, go to the unbiased.co.uk website and you can find a financial advisor. Another question here: how long did it take me to pay off my £30,000? It took me just under 5 years, and I'm telling you that was a grind. Let me just say, it was not easy. I do another session about how to get out of debt really fast, and if you want to attend that, then ask your HR department that you'd like to see the money. You'd like to see Salary Finance's Get Out of Debt Fast presentation. We've got recordings of that, or we can do ones live. Let's have a look. What are your thoughts on regular people using index funds and trading apps? Fanny, do you want to mention on that, and I can comment as well?
Index funds, I mean,
and trading apps.
Well, you know, again, if you're investing in index funds and you know where your money's going and you're doing it through a reputable broker, yes, it's going to keep your costs down, right? And you know that you're following an index. As far as trading apps, if you're trading on trading apps, just know what you're doing. Do your research. Don't just suddenly think, oh, that looks good, let's put some money on that and see what happens, because it won't work. It won't work. You might get a couple of flukes, but you'll end up losing money. So again, it's absolutely, you must do your research, and I would never recommend just going on there. It's certainly not using money that you can't afford to lose. You're gambling, basically.
Well, I don't. Okay. Let me just say now, I am independently wealthy, okay? I don't need to, and have never done trading or speculating. Speculating is not investing. Speculating is win-lose. Someone has to lose for you to win. Investing is taking a stake in property or shares or government indexed in gilts. It's taking a share of something that produces real value over the long run. You just have to be very, very patient. And you have to keep grinding it out, saving and saving. But a global equity index fund certainly is worthy of good consideration as a core part of your long-term money. But again, if any doubt, speak to an advisor. I have £700 in savings, but £700 on my credit card. Well, what should you recommend I do? First and foremost, with the money milestones that we teach, you should have £1,000 as a starter emergency fund, just to get some confidence, get some breathing space, and break the cycle of debt. Then you should get rid of any non-mortgage debt as quick as you possibly can. You do not want to hang about. You do not even want to have time for breathing. You've got to get rid of that stuff, and then you can start thinking about building up your emergency fund. Then you can start thinking about investing more. So that's that. Are there any software apps that you recommend to managing your finances? Over to you, Fanny, because you are an expert in this area.
I'm a big fan of Money Dashboard. That's all I'm going to say. I'm only going to recommend Money Dashboard. I love Money Dashboard. I'm a real follower, and I think it really works.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, good. I know there are others out there. There's Emma. There's Yolt. There's You Need a Budget. Okay. There's all sorts of stuff out there.
Yeah. Just try some. They're not the answer to all your problems. If you don't get the framework right, if you don't deal with your emotions, if you don't get your priorities right, all these apps will not help you. They will just be around the edges. They will be helpful if you get this right.
This is why I recommend Money Dashboard first, because they sort of take you through it, and actually once they give you clarity over your spending first of all, and then you can set budgets from there. And I love the way that works. It's not too complicated, and it's a really good first step.
Okay, now we've got a few more questions. I just want to answer these ones because they're really, really important before we go. If you can just hold on with us a few minutes, people, because these are really important questions. GameStop, yes, speculation. It's down 80%. It's what happens when you speculate for whatever reason, even if you're doing it with a small amount of money. No one wins in that. Should I pay my residual value of my car or cash it in if I have the money? Look, it all depends on whether it makes sense for you. If the car's worth less than giving it back, if after paying off the residual value, you're not actually any better off, no point in doing it. Everyone is different. If you are in any doubt, speak to the National Debt Helpline or Step Change, but more importantly, speak to the lender and ask them what the options are. And if in any doubt, take advice from Citizens Advice Bureau. But generally speaking, cars are a no-no with finance. What are your thoughts on government student loans? Is it worth actively paying it back if you're on a low salary? Basically, as if you are ever likely to need to borrow money ever again in the future, okay, then you do not pay back student loans, particularly if you're a low earner or if you like to have career breaks, okay? Think of it as a graduate tax. We've got some material on our website about this, and we can link it to you to that. And basically speaking, very high earners who are going to earn a high amount of money over a short period of time probably should pay it off quicker than most other people. So it's the last debt you should think about paying off, the last debt you should think about paying off. It's tempting to easy to transfer credit card balances around to 0% and keeping savings. Is that bad? Yes, it is bad. Get rid of the puppy. 0% is still debt. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Right.
I would say though, go down to 0% first, then get rid of it at the same speed, equal.
Yeah, that's it. Get rid of it. 0% just means that they're not fleecing you as much. Right. Okay. Final. Before you all go, I just want you to quickly do a final poll. I want to know what you're going to do next. I want to know what action you're going to take. This is a very short webinar, and we try to do as much as we can. I want to know what you're going to do after today. Are you going to take the money test? Are you going to deal with one or two small money related systems? Are you going to implement something like the smart spending system or the money map system? Are you going to increase savings to get rid of debt or build up savings or increase your workplace pension? Or are you so sorted you aren't going to do anything? This is good. This is good. Everyone's not many people going to do nothing. I'm going to close it off in 3, 2, 1. Look at that. We have got an action list. This is Wednesday for the weekend. There is a really, really good spread of things there. Whatever you're going to do, well done. I'm very, very proud of you. We know you've got this. Fanny and I, we love it when people, commit to doing something. Action is everything. So here's the thing. Thank you very much for joining us. Fanny and I really appreciate you hanging out with us. If you've liked this, please tell your colleagues and tell them that we've got this session on again at 12. And we do these money webinars regularly every other month or so. So do join us again in the future. We appreciate you being here. And thank you, Fanny, for being our guest this month.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really grateful.